Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Nasha binti Jabat,
And my name is Nashahada Mama Amran.
and today we will be learning about child language development. So without further ado, let's go!
Cepat. Oh ya. Cepat.
For introduction, early childhood development is a period of great opportunity but also one of great vulnerability. Child development refers to the sequence of physical, language, thought, and emotional changes that occur in a child from birth to the beginning of adulthood. Furthermore, language development in children is actually the process through which we gain the ability to comprehend and communicate through speech. And before the children acquire fluency, they may progressively comprehend fundamental verbal patterns and increase their vocabulary throughout this stage.
Moving on to the literature review, there are few related studies that we found. So first, language development begins with a child's first cry and continues until they can pronounce a word. This is according to Indrayani in 2016. And another past study that we found is that a study done by the Gillum et al. In 2017, language disorders impact roughly 7% of children who are preschool and school age. In addition, he also mentioned that children with language acquisition issues who do not make progress by the age of 5 usually struggle with social and academic language during the elementary school years. And moving on to the theories part, one of the theories that has been developed to explain how language is acquired, learned and taught is the behaviors theory. So basically the behaviors theory talks about the duration of training which offered by the environment, which according to Indrayani, it is a major determinant of the language development process.
Looking at child language development from the Islamic perspective, language is one of the most crucial aspects of human life. And according to the Quran, hence God teaches Adam, the first human, how to speak as soon as he is created. And Quran also mentioned that he taught Adam all the names of everything. And the genesis of spoken language is attributed to God's instruction. This is according to a study by Irwandi in 2019. Another Islamic perspective in the Quran mentioned that Allah provides numerous explanations of how a person developed while still in his mother's womb. And it is He who brought you forth from the wombs of your mother when you know nothing. And He gave you hearing, sight, intelligence and affections that you may give thanks to. So this basically means that Islamic perspective also agrees that language development started from early childhood and is a very important aspect in life.
Next, let's see the stages of child language development.
So there are a few child language development stages that parents or guardians might have to know. The first one is pre-linguistic stage, babbling stage, first word stage, two-word stage, and also telegraphic stage. For pre-linguistic stage, between the age of 0 from the birth up until 6 months old, the baby will start acquiring languages from sounds and producing sounds such as cooing, crying, and also burping. Moving on to the second stage at the age of 6 to 12 months old, the baby will start using repetitive babbling or also variegated babbling such as mama and dada for repetitive and mommy and papi for variegated babbling. And then when they are reaching 12 to 18 months old, they are in a first word stage, which they will firmly say words such as no, go, mom, dad, and so on. And then, when they are reaching the age of 18 to 24 months after 1 year, they are actually in the stage of two-word stage. At this particular stage, the infants or the toddlers will have a more acquisition of knowledge and also language, which they can pronounce words such as mummy sock, which might mean mummy I need my socks, or cat go, mummy ask the cat to go, or something like that. And after a while, when the children is in 2 or 3 years, they are actually in the telegraphic stage, which it is actually a stage where their language development is actually at peak. and they already have few sentences, a few words that can be put into sentences, such as today play ball, which in their language might mean today I play ball. And also school eat good, which means I eat good food at school. So these are the child language development stage. And this is the language development milestone, which is in regards with the previous slide. For example, at 3 months old, the baby will start cooing and gurgling. At 8 months old, the baby will start babbling. At 12 or 1 year, the baby will start jabbers and use first words. Moving on to their 18 months, maybe the children or the baby will have like 5 to 40 words and started to use gestures when they were talking. And when they reach the age of 2 years, the children might already have like 150 or 400 words and started uses 3-word sentences. Just to note that even though we say that children might have lots of words in their mind, they might not be able to actually blurt out all these particular words. And at 3 years old, the children might already have like 900 to 1000 words and started to ask questions. And this is like the stage where children started to ask, why is that, why is this, and so on. And then at 4 years old, the children might have already in mind 2000 words and started 6-word sentences using a good grammar and produce sentences correctly. And at 5 years old, the children might have started to identify letters and also vocalize broadly.
Some of us might wonder how exactly children learn language. So let's see. So basically, we often think that children learn language through their parents or their caretakers, but actually, the children have 3 stages in learning language, which are first, learning through sounds. Second, learning through words. Third, learning sentences. So at the first stage, learning sounds. When the babies are born, they can hear and distinguish all the sounds in all the languages in the world. And the sounds a language use are called phonemes. And in this stage, babies learn which phonemes belong to the language they are learning and which don't. So after they learn how to differentiate the sounds, and then they will learn to to develop their language through words. And during this stage, children are essentially learning how the sounds in a language go together to make meaning and recognize where one word ends and another one begins. And these are called word boundaries. But we must note that children are not learning words exactly. They are actually learning morphemes. And morphemes is the smallest discrete chunks words that can be broken into mommy as a ma and me. And then when the child grow older, they move to learn through sentences, and during this stage, children learn how to create sentences, and that means they can put words in the correct order, and also they learn the differences between grammatical correctness and also meaning.
So moving on, we would like to give some information, maybe for the parents and also the caretakers, regarding child language development.
The first one, the fact that our brain's foundation is built through experiences in early in life. For example, just to note that at the age of 5, 90% of a kid's brain has been formed. So during these years, if only the child is blocked from receiving any stimulating experiences, the language center and also other parts of the brain are likely to remain weak for life. So it's important to know that brain's foundation should be given exposure early in their life. And also, the next thing parents should note is that we learn language socially. So children actually learn by observing and also imitating others. And children or toddlers, they actually cannot learn language by videotape or technology. They need to be motivated by human relationship That is why it is important for parents to actually have time and talk with their children face to face and have time to actually be part of their children's child language journey. The third one is language brain growth is strongest in year 1. So basically, the growth in the part of the brain responsible for language peaks between birth to the age of 3. And during this critical period, children can actually learn a new word every 90 minutes. Isn't that incredible? Because they were just a little baby and they were actually acquiring more words by minute. And also, the last one is language actually makes our world. Rich language skills allow us to really listen, to speak well, to enjoy reading, and also master in writing. So language can create entire world around us. That is why particularly child language development is very important.
We have been discussing about child language development in general. Now, we will go deeper about child language disorder. So what it is actually? Many young children have difficulty with communication at some time in their life, and most will eventually catch up, but some will continue to have problems. And a child may have a language disorder if he has difficulty getting his meaning across through speech, writing, or even gesture. And some children have a language disorder even though they produce sounds well and have clear speech.
So that was the introduction about children language disorder. So now we will look at the two types of children language disorder. Let's see.
There are two types of language disorder in particular, which are receptive language disorder and expressive language disorder. For receptive language disorder, usually a child may have difficulty understanding the words or sentences that are used by others. And the child may also seem to show poor attention to speech and cause difficulty following directions and also learning. On the other hand, for expressive language disorder, a child may have difficulty coming up with the right words when talking, and they might also be unable to join words correctly into sentence. Apart from that, expressive language disorder might have children with expressive language disorder might also have small vocabulary or use words incorrectly. And the child may also speak using short phrases and leave out small words such as the or is. And they also might say sentences but put them together incorrectly.
There are various examples of speech and language disorder, but let's take a look at some of them. First, apraxia of speech. So what is apraxia of speech? It is actually a motor speech disorder that makes the children hard to speak, and it can take a lot of work to learn to say sound and words better. Second, dysarthria. So dysarthria is a speech disorder that caused by muscle problem which make the children hard to talk. Third, speech sound disorder, where the children have trouble saying sounds clearly, and it may be hard for us as an adult to understand what they actually say. Fourth, selective mutism. Some children are uncomfortable speaking in unfamiliar situations or with people they don't know, and they may have repeated difficulty speaking or seem afraid to communicate at certain times or in certain places, and it might continue into adulthood. So we can see that actually children they choose to speak with who they want to speak, especially their parents, and they might refuse to speak to have communication between their friends and so on because they unfamiliar with the people around them. Next is learning disabilities. So the children with learning disabilities or language development may have problems in reading, spelling and writing, and they can also have trouble in school. And the last one is stuttering, where the children may get stuck on certain words or sounds, and they also feel tense or uncomfortable to communicate.
So what are actually the causes to speech and language disorder?
There are a few causes actually when talking about speech and language disorder. The causes includes hearing loss, extreme environmental deprivation, prematurity, auditory processing disorder, neurological problems, and also autism. So for hearing loss, actually, this particular cause or symptoms is often overlooked. However, it is easily identified. If your children is speech or language delayed, their hearing should be tested. And also for extreme environmental deprivation, these particular causes can actually be a factor of speech delay. And if a child is neglected or abused and does not hear others speaking, they will not be able to learn how to speak. The next causes of speech and language disorder is prematurity. This can lead to many kinds of developmental delays, including speech and also language problems. Moving on, auditory processing disorder is also one of the causes for speech and language disorder, where this describes a problem with decoding speech sounds. These kids cannot be improved with speech and language therapy if the parents were able to detect it in their early life. And also, neurological problems can also be the cause for this particular disorder because issues like cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, and traumatic brain injury can affect the muscles needed for speaking. And lastly, autism basically affects communication because speech or language or communication problems are often an early sign of autism.
While we are at this, let's see who have the high risk of developing speech and language disorder. So, the children who get high risk in developing speech is those who are being born prematurely, and then the children who have low weight at birth. Third, family history of speech and language disorder, and another risk factors is the children experiencing problems that affect their ears, nose, or throat.
So every issues have its solutions. So let's take a look at some treatment that might be helpful in helping with speech and language disorder.
The first treatment includes target selection. This particular treatment involves a person practicing specific sound or words to familiarize themselves with particular speech patterns. For example, this treatment may include difficult words or sounds that trigger speech disruption. The second treatment is contextual utilization, where for this approach, speech-language practitioners often teach people to recognize speech sounds in different syllable-based contexts. And the third treatment is contrast therapy, where contrast therapy actually involves saying word pairs that contain one or more different speech sounds. For example, word pair might be things like bid and fate, or do and show, so it might have the same sounds. And the next one is oral motor therapy, where it focuses on improving muscle strength, motor control, and also breath control. These exercises can help children develop fluency, which produces smoother speech that sounds more natural. Moving on, apart from this particular treatment, if it is not working, the parents can also opt for a stronger treatment using medication. This is because some speech disorders can cause people to develop anxiety, which result in more pronounced speech disorder symptoms. And anxiety medications might help to reduce symptoms of speech disorders in some people. And lastly, the most common treatment for speech and language disorder is the use of ear device. Ear devices are small electronic aids that fits inside the ear canal, and this device can help improve fluency in people who have stutters and have issues with language disorder.
So, before we end with what is child language development, there is a famous quote by Oliver Wendell Holmes where he said that language is the blood of the soul into which thoughts run and out of which they grow. So, we can understand that language is the most important things in child development.
So that's about it regarding our introduction.
So, in order to know more about child language development, we interviewed 4 parents to know what they have in mind regarding this topic.
So let's look at the interview together.
Are you a parent or a guardian?
I'm a mom of 7 months old baby.
Saya seorang parents. Umur sekarang setahun 7 bulan. Seorang.
I'm a mother of three. My eldest is 10 years old and my youngest is 2.
A parent of three, which currently I have one boy and two girls.
What do you know about child language development?
For me, child language development start from when I was pregnant. The communication is there already. You keep talking to your baby until he's born. Until he's born.
Pernah dengar secara sama-sama dan saya pun ada buat research dan juga kita baca kat buku saya tentang dia punya cakapan lah melalui stage. Sebab daripada awal lagi saya memang baca lah setiap stage daripada 1 bulan kepada 3 bulan saya baca dia punya progress dan tracker. Tapi secara detailnya saya kurang tahu lah saya.
When they're a baby, I figure that they need to have like a certain, development of word. For example, they start off with single syllable and then they go to like a word and then 2 words and then it develops like that. And then gradually a sentence.
When we talk about child language development, we don't go beyond the concept of understanding phonetics, understanding the syllables, words, utterances, and other aspects pertaining to the language itself.
Is there any difference between boys and girls in terms of language development?
In my opinion, the gender doesn't determine like the communication skill. I think it's how we communicate with them. That's matter.
Okay, dulu saya ada seorang jiran yang ada anak yang masa dulu anak saya baru lahir, dia anak dia 1 tahun perempuan. Yang dulu dia sangat bising, 1 tahun something lah. And then saya pun ada kawan juga yang anak dia perempuan, hampir sebaya dengan anak saya, beza 2 bulan. Tapi dia pendiam, perempuan. Anak saya lelaki, dia punya mulut tu dia depend. Cakap pada dia dengan orang yang dia biasa, dia akan bising lah. Dengan orang yang dia tak biasa, dia diam. Jadi dari situ saya boleh kata macam saya tak boleh nak pasti sama ada perbezaan jantina tu menyebabkan perbezaan kadar language dia tu.
I thought there was going to be, but looking at my firstborn, which is a boy, and my second, which is a girl, there's not much difference. It's just that how they were brought up. For example, I thought that my eldest had more speech because we had more time to like really see his speech development. And then when the second came, we didn't focus that much on her, as to say that because there was already 2 in the family, right? So I thought that she had her own skills in speaking later than the first, yeah. So I don't think gender has a difference.
But me personally, I don't have any apparent experience, any obvious experience in terms of how my boy and the other 2 girls actually grasp the language. They're actually experiencing the same stages, the same processes, and about 2 years old, they're actually able to speak for their own stage. So I do think that there's no apparent differences.
Have you experienced any language difficulties with your child or others?
My baby, so far he is 7 months old. So far, I think his language development is normal, progressing towards like I think his age is appropriate lah.
So far dengan anak saya development dia agak bagus. Dia mula mengeluarkan kata pertama tu seawal 6 bulan macam tu. Dan saya rasa macam now in my experience untuk menghadapi yang kesukaran macam ni, kecuali ada macam saya nampak orang lain dengan yang kita nampak dia punya karakter sendiri tu macam okay, kita tahu dia pendiam. Okay, saya anggap tu sebagai karakter je lah, sebagai mungkin dia punya built-in karakter yang memang seorang tidak cakap banyak sebenarnya.
My first, for example, I thought that he was a bit speech delay because at 2 years old he didn't really like have sentences or anything. But then, as soon as he came into 3 years old, he talked sentences. So that was like what we say the major thing that I saw in the speech development. It doesn't really have to be like by the books, right? And then, but I've seen it with my other friends. They have speech delay children, where at as young as 10 years old, these children were already developing the language speaking, and then they suddenly decide to not talk. I mean, they want everything they want, they shout it out or they scream. So first of all, we thought it was a habit, and then after a while, when they turn into 1 year and 2 years, that the doctor said that this is speech delay, to say that they don't utter the words, they scream for everything. So that one they actually regress. They progress for language too, they regress, and then that is actually speech delay, and one of the reasons was because of screen, I guess. Yeah.
Me particularly, with regards to my own child, Alhamdulillah, I don't have any major difficulty when it comes to developing my children's language ability, but I do aware of certain problems with regards to language. For example, maybe stuttering.
How do you encourage early language development with your children?
I didn't do much. It just the daily conversation and all the routines that we do every day. From he wake up in the morning until he slept in the night. Like changing clothes, routine, eating time, all the simple words but repeating, like eat, makan, like I don't use a lot of sentence, it just repetition of the words.
When he first bercakap, dia mengeluarkan perkataan seperti pa, ma dan sebagainya itu, masa tu dah saya dah mula ajar dia untuk ulang apa yang saya cakap. Contohnya tunjuk sesuatu, ni bapa, ni mama, dan seterusnya kita gradually, bila dia dah mula macam kadang-kadang dia sendiri yang mulakan. Dia dah mula new words. Kita track dia punya perkataan-perkataan baru yang keluar tu. Going to setahun sampai setahun, dan kita dah tahu okay, dia dah boleh faham. Jadi basically saya track lah dia punya perkataan-perkataan baru.
Well, because my children, they are very exposed to English things, you know. For example, YouTube, everything is in English, and then they get English. So I guess like they have the yes, no, mama, papa, and want to eat and stuff. But we have to also encourage bahasa, because I've seen in my friends' children, when we only encourage one language, they drop out the other language, or then both language doesn't progress. So what we do is make sure that they understand the English. First we read stories and all, and then when they are safe to say that this is they're like they understand the language, then we go to Bahasa Melayu, which is now they don't have difficulty in switching the both languages. Yeah.
For me personally, I do a lot of other activities like engaging them with surroundings, like educational games, like hearing sounds, like sounds from the nature, and maybe songs, songs from nursery rhymes and songs from the televisions and other programs.
Are you aware of any issues regarding child language development?
I experienced a few issues such as speech delay, and actually speech delay maybe it's like more related to autism.
Ada dua dan saya ada juga baca pasal courses, and then the worst case can happen adalah seperti speech delay, autism, the spectrum. Benda tu saya ada baca. And then as as far as I concerned, benda ni berkait rapat dengan cara kita dedahkan dia dengan apa-apa yang kita dedah macam skrip.
The speech delay, that one is one thing. When they grow older, I guess when it relates to their thinking as well. So when they are able to speak, but if we don't really speak with them or to them, then it kind of like they don't really want to speak much. So they become very reserved, very covert. So I think that as far as parents concerned, you should also encourage your children to speak with you, talk to you, because we don't want like one day your children don't want to tell you anything because you haven't been encouraging them to speak with you. Yeah.
Speech delay is one of the common problems among parents in Malaysia. This may be due to hereditary, maybe to genetics, and maybe to the psychological development of the children itself, and I would say the parents, the factor of parents comes last. And other problems, we might hear something like stuttering and dyslexic, maybe dysgraphic, and some other problems probably would be anxiety, speech anxiety.
What are the possible solutions to tackle the issue of child language development?
I don't have much because I am myself the first time parents, and I still have a lot to learn. So but what I did so far, I think I feel I'm on the right track, but still I have a lot to learn from other parents that have experience.
Saya rasa dengan sekarang ni memang ada khusus untuk treat benda ni kan. Saya rasa boleh treat, dan saya ada buat bacaan juga kat Twitter, social media. Benda ni as a parent saya pun kena aware dengan adanya benda ni. If one day anak saya encounter any problem dengan dia punya growth, saya percaya memang ada treatment kalau
We have to be interested in what they are talking about, even as they are like, because when they are 3, usually they are able to tell stories to us, right? And then we usually shut them off when they talk too much, because you don't have the time to listen. I think nurturing on communication from an early childhood is very important, because that's why we see many adults who don't know how to communicate. It's because from childhood, everything comes from childhood. So like nurturing from childhood, how we speak to the child, like the tone, what we want them to tell us. You can't just let them go on and on and on without having purpose. Then like they don't know what's the purpose. And in the same time, we can't just shut them off and not listen. So I don't have the time to listen. Or kejap mama tengah sibuk, I'm very busy right now. You can't do that, because then they won't want to speak to you, right? So as a parent, I think the role is, once the child gets the language, then you are actually responsible to ensure that this child becomes a good communicator. Yeah, don't stop at like, you have the language, dah.
One of the most common steps to take is actually, therapy. We do hear that health institutions always recommend those kind of parents with problems to undergo speech therapy, which involves a lot of activities. It's not just playing with sounds, and I would say the holistic approach of child development process. They would engage your children with physical activities, with social and emotional as well.
Do you think child language development is important, and why?
For me, it is. It is very important, and it is the first skill that we teach our kids. The language is not like something you teach once in a day, once in a month. It's constant work, so you have to repeat, like how we talk to our friends, our people, the people around us. That's how it works. It's not like one time activity only. Yeah, true.
Bagi saya penting, sebab itu adalah the earliest orang kata apa you have to start early lah. Macam anak selagi awal dia boleh develop dia punya skill and everything lagi bagus. Lagi lambat lagi susah lah. Bagi saya penting lah.
I think because language is from the mind, you know, the cognitive part, you know. As much as behavior is important, but language is as important because they say that speak to a person and then you will know how he is as a person or she is as a person.
So I do believe that language and language acquisition itself for children is truly one of the most important thing in humankind.
Moving on, there are several tips for parents and caretakers to promote early child language development. So let's take a look.
Number 1. Use simple repetitive words.
Number 2, interact well while doing daily routines.
Your right foot in. Your right foot in.
Number 3. Use animal sound to attract attention.
Number 4, read stories with your child.
Tigers, it's jumping. Look, look. Wow, hedgehog. Hedgehog.
Number 5. Sing songs with them.
One little finger, tap, tap, tap.
Number 6, actively play with your child.
And 2, up.
Number 7. Give praises and encouragement.
Stand up. Stand up. Pandai, good job.
Lastly, be attentive towards your child's development.
Allahumma barik lana fima razaqtana wa qina azabannar. Amin.
Finally, we have come to an end of our video today. So in our video, we actually included a few introduction about child language development and also some past studies that mentioned and also conducted in relation to our topic today. We also you can also show some Islamic perspective on how Islam views child language development in general, and also we included things like how actually children learn language and so on. In order to make this video more interesting, we also put some additional information for parents or caretakers to look at in regards with child language development.
And aside from that, we also discuss about the language disorder, which is we discuss about the types, and also we provide some examples of language disorders, and also we provide some information, I mean a little bit information about the causes of language disorder, about their risk factors, and also we discuss a little bit about the treatment that exists, and then we have interviewed 4 respondents, yes, to see their level of knowledge regarding child language development, and also we in this video we also talk about the ways to encourage the children in order to help them to start better.
Yeah. So basically, from all of things that we mentioned before, it can be concluded that actually child language development is very important because, as you can see from previous video, it is mentioned that child language development actually started from early, way before the babies were born. Actually, even when they were in their mummy's womb, the language development has already started. So actually, this topic was chosen because we would like to see how Malaysian parents actually know and their level of knowledge regarding this particular topic, and we also like to know whether this topic is like a well-known topic in Malaysia, because from our research we cannot actually see much studies conducted right regarding this topic. So we hope that this video can be helpful for anyone out there.
Alhamdulillah, we have come to an end of our video.
So we hope that this video can be helpful and also beneficial to parents, educators and anyone watching this video. So that's about it. Assalamualaikum. Bye.